Hey, what's up YouTube? Evan Star here, and we're back with a painting video. Haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm painting up these two miniatures for tomorrow. So working on the eyes right now. After priming the miniatures white, I start by painting in the whole eyeballs black. Then you can see I'm working on the whites there, paint the eyeballs in white. Then I will come back after the white and dot the eyes. Now in this case I used a blue actually to dot Cane de la Cruz eyeballs. That's a little unusual. Quite honestly, you don't really see it, but that's what the artist did for Anima Tactics. I figured I would follow him. So once the eyeballs are down, and again, that's the way I do it, is I do the eyeballs first because it makes it easier to go in and actually clean up the shape of the eyeballs with my base undercoat there. So now I'm using Vallejo Game Color, Extra Opaque, Basic, or Deep Skin Tone, I believe. And this is usually my base skin color. And the first thing I do is I'm using the smaller brush there and cutting around the eyes. So I'm actually shaping the eyes with the brush itself, which helps quite a bit. So that's actually the tedious part of painting these models, is the eyes and the skin. The most important parts of the models, if you ask me. So here we go with cutting around Fei Ying's face there. And most of this video is going to be me working on skin. So I start adding some basic skin tone to the skin. And I really just start blending up from there. And I will take my time on doing the skin. Typically, it's the longest part of the model for me, working on some more Fei Ying skin parts there. Because, you know, you got to do the skin right, you got to do the eyes right, because that's where people are going to focus in on the model. So I don't mind spending the extra time doing extra layers on the skin and making sure that the eyes are shaped properly. So even if you are a speed painter like me, those are where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. Now, these models are Anima Tactics models. I picked them up very cheap with the intent of playing them the next day, so I'm painting them very quickly. And so I put them on secret weapon bases and just started to work on the models. So you can see me working on some more skin there. Again, this is going to be the bulk of the video, is me working on skin, applying a wash. And I typically use a sepia wash, like a GW Griffin sepia, or I don't even know what they call it now, I guess Seraphim sepia. And I use that instead of most of your flesh washes, because I like the sepia, kind of the golden tone, as opposed to the ruddy tones that a lot of other flesh washes will use. So with regards to these models, again, the basic theory is you start with the eyes, you take your time shaping the eyes and highlighting up the skin. You can do, if it's a female model in these cases, you also do the same thing with the lips. You paint the lips in with kind of like, I think I'm using sunset red on the lips there. But right now I'm still working on skin. You can see lots of highlights going on the skin. And I just keep working that basic skin tone up and up and up. So even after I do the wash, I come back in with the same color I was at, the transition I was at, and then start to apply more skin. There goes a little bit of that sunset red, like I said, a little earlier than that. And I'm just going to keep working on the skin until I've got it right where I want it. So that's the basic premise, really, is I do the eyes, then I do the skin, and those are really the hardest parts of the model. The rest of the model is, the models are going to be pretty simple with regards to working on some armor and some clothing. Now, luckily, these two models share a very similar color palette, so you'll see that I am able to recycle a couple of colors from one model to the next. And that's another trick in speed painting, is you kind of want some good carryover, and you want those palettes picked out in your mind before you go ahead and start applying. So this is me working on some of the undercoat for Kane's white armor. Now, her armor's white, and I wanted to go with a clean white. Whites typically are considered a nuisance to people. I'm so used to painting white, it doesn't even bother me, and in fact, I tend to look for models that use white now. So I start with I'm going for a clean white, so I start with light blue, a sky blue undercoat, and I'm gradually mixing in white and layering it up. And I will apply a lot of layers over this white armor. You're just going to see lots of it going. I don't know if this audio is matching up, but if it is, you definitely are seeing more and more layers of white go. And again, it's all about your preference. If you're comfortable working with white as one of your colors, you should have no problem doing these kinds of layers. Some people tell me that it takes too long, but frankly, I don't know. I'm used to doing these kinds of layers, and I think I paint fairly quickly. I may not be the best painter, I'm definitely not, but that's part of my style, is this kind of effective, fast approach here to painting. So more of this colors going down right now. Now, also I should say that when you are doing layering and this kind of stuff, make sure you've got your thinning down correctly, especially with white, because of the amount of pigment that white has to it. You don't want to slosh it around. At the same time, you don't want to leave it too thick to where you're kind of gumming things up. So I did miss some flesh there, and I went back and I dropped in some quick layers of flesh. Again, the same motif there, basic skin tone, highlight up with, deep skin tone, and then highlight up to basic skin tone with a sepia wash. So nothing too significant there. Here comes some blue that I'll be using in the clothing. So you'll see some intense blue there going over Kane. Also, we'll do the same thing with Feng Yi. I'm going with a intense blue dress on Feng Yi. So when it comes to cloth, it's pretty simple if you have the right colors selected out. Colors like intense blue, some of the browns and some of the violets will go on fairly thin, and they'll take on almost like a wash or a glaze look. Now, some people will just leave that because it's sort of naturally highlighted, and that's fine. I go through and mix in a little bit of white, and just go through and knock out a couple of layers of wash, and then maybe a highlight as well. So I don't do anything too extravagant, as long as, and my highlights aren't terribly precise, but the wash will help clean that up, and just doing a couple extra layers typically cleans all of this stuff up. So it might look a little stark, but so that's really the painting process. And typically I do more than 2 models. I may have up to, say, 6 to 10 in some cases. That's my typical pace for these. I'll do all the skin, the eyes, and the makeup, and all the hard stuff one night. Then usually the next night I'm in and doing the entire rest of the model. So stuff like armor, clothing, hair, everything else gets done on the second night because it's all pretty simple. Speaking of hair and the gold there, I'm working with a yellow ochre. Now, once you've painted a lot with your own paints, you'll have your own preferences with how to do things like yellows, whites, reds, and you'll have your own sort of base coat, undercoat, base coat, highlight coat. And so, it's important to kind of stick to those as your go-tos, but every now and then throw yourself a curveball, learn something new while you're painting, because it really only expands your palette out a bit more. So you definitely want to do that while you're painting. When you're doing this kind of work, though, you don't really necessarily need a lot of highlights. Again, it depends on the color and it depends on the effect you're trying to achieve. Ultimately, though, I find that you're okay with 2 to 3 layers per color. With regards to the gray or the non-metallic metal in some cases. In some cases I try to use the black gray for stone. Black gray is one of my all-time utility colors from the Vallejo model color range, and so I will start with black gray as an undercoat to both metallics and non-metallics. I will also use it as a undercoat for a true black color. So you can use black gray as kind of an undercoat for black hair, for example, or black clothing. You give it one, maybe two highlights, and then you wash the whole thing, maybe one last highlight at the end, and things work out. So I'm heading towards the end of this model, of the two models. You can see that I've kind of got them based up, ready to go, and you see I've highlighted that black gray all the way up just by continually adding white to it, getting my plate and everything else done. And that should pretty much wrap these up. So thanks for watching. That was the process very quickly, and these whole models took about 2 hours to do. That's kind of slow for me, but it works. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.